Thanks for tuning in. Folks, these intros are so tough. We've just been sitting there for there was like a 45-second pause where nobody was saying anything because Sergi's just waiting for me to do the intro. And I'm like, my mind is blank. I can't come up with anything clever. All right. Welcome to another episode of the Coffee Roaster Warm-Up Sessions podcast. It is a nice, beautiful, very warm evening here in Bellingham. My name is Mark Kotrovsky, and this is Sergi Kotrovsky. We're co-owners and brothers of Mira Coffee Roasters. Well, as we always say in a Coffee Roaster Warm-Up Sessions fashion, let's pour some batchy and let's sip on some coffee as we dive into this conversation.
Dude, with these kind of temps in this office with no AC, we might have to pull a cat and cloud and go out and record this podcast in the parking lot.
I'm telling you, it was like 15 degrees cooler out there.
I think the coffee's there. It's just I shouldn't have went with the flat bottom.
It actually makes a difference now that we switched back. I think that's actually the move. I think Lance was right.
What did Lance say?
That the cone is the way to go with the Bravo Precision Brewer. It tastes much more fuller, sweeter, and has a nice texture to it. This kind of tastes like
a little harsh. Yeah,
it's just harsh. That is. And I wouldn't be able to say that it's like under or over necessarily. It's just not a great brew, quality of brew.
Yeah. Coffee tastes great though. I like the coffee.
Big, rich body, lots of dried fruit, a lot of dried fruit. It's fruit forward. Has some nice acidity actually on the back end that cuts through really well. It's complex. It has some nuance to it. It's just solid. I mean, great. It's
very sweet.
Yeah, very sweet. Has some tea on it for sure. Man, I wish this was on the cone.
My bad. I thought I'd switch it up just to throw a wrench in a plan.
You did.
That was my thought process. Just switch it up.
Sure did. Just something that you just enjoy going back to over and over again, as just once again, great nuance, complexity, sweetness is there. Everything. I mean, this is just, it's solid.
It smells fabulous. It's very aromatic. I really like this coffee.
This is part of the two coffees that we just dropped a week ago. This is the Indonesia Sulawesi Desitolajuk anaerobic red honey process. What we have on the bag, it reminds us of dried fruit and black tea, and tasty.
That's it.
So it's killer. I think for anybody who drinks, literally batch brew, filter coffee, this will slap on filter. And really, I bet this would go great on espresso. I haven't had it on espresso for a long time.
Yeah.
And
I just pulled it this morning on the flare. I didn't have exactly a perfect dial. I wasn't grinding fine enough. It was 4 days off a roast. I brewed it today. We roasted it on Monday, right? So it was very fresh. But it was good. It was way more complex. My shots were 22 seconds, very quick.
Yeah.
And it still was very complex, fairly bright, but that was also an under extracted chai. But yeah, I liked it a lot. Yeah. I like this more as a batch brew, maybe because more dialed than my espresso was. Has a way bigger sweetness, but the complexity and there's a lot in this coffee to play around with.
If you're looking for something that's going to be rich and sweet and big and take up a lot of space in terms of flavor, this is I think this is a killer coffee for that. If you're looking for something that's light, airy, and by light, I don't mean light roast, because this is actually, we measured it. Yeah. It's still considered a light roast, but by light and airy, I mean like coffees that are just like super high in acidity and just very tea-like that don't have, very much big body or whatever. This is like, it's pretty intrusive.
Yeah.
It's big flavor, big intensity, big sweetness. I mean, killer. I'm stoked that we're roasting it. Yeah. I'm stoked that now that it's out and we're roasting it more often, I'm stoked to be brewing this more. So
it's great.
As it cools, it's just so nice that those dried fruits are just coming through so pleasantly. It's excellent.
Yeah.
But that all being said, it's midsummer. It's smoking hot. It's also, that means it's fair season. Sergey, tell me what you just went to the fair, the local Linden Fair. How was it?
It was fun. I was there for like a few hours. Very quick. Get in, get out. Go for the snacks. Go for the food.
Did you go for the animals?
I did.
Nice.
Highly just. Last time I was at the Linden Fair was 2005.
Yeah.
And it's changed a lot. Like the animal park was the size of this maybe 2 times the size of this office.
No
That's
way.
about it. Tiny. Like just caged animals. A few alpacas. I mean,
the zoo didn't show up today.
I was devastated. I was like, there was like an aisle of horses in one of the barns, and that's about it. I was hoping to see some animals roaming around, like farm animals. Nope. It was pretty disappointing. Yeah, pretty low key, but still went for it. The alpacas is what got me. I was like, and I haven't seen an alpaca this close in a long time. That was good. Yeah,
that's excellent. Yeah. Did you have any fun food?
A lot of fun food. They had some tasty corned beef and sauerkraut fries.
Nice.
It's a very popular food truck. You've probably seen around. Great design too. Like very fun. It's not called
something on an
F. Yeah. What's it called? Oh man, they were great.
I see it in my head.
Yeah, same. They also had another little sub brand of a kind of food like shed, not like a trailer, that had kind of like fried like dough ish, something like that. That was great. They had these weird corn dogs that were like freaking massive. Had some of that. I ate just like a little bit of everything in 3 hours. And right after or before, I got a classic Moo-wich, which is an ice cream sandwich.
Right.
I walked past a coffee stand, like kind of a drive-through-esque like trailer.
Except there was a walkthrough here because everybody's walking around.
Yeah, because this is on a fairgrounds. And it caught my attention. It was the name. It got me. It was Dane Good Coffee.
That's unreal.
And that's Dane without a G button, E, like a Great Dane. Totally. Like the whole complexity in that name is literally what attracted me.
You can't walk past it and be the same. You can't walk past it.
There's no way.
It's like once you see it, you see it. You can't unsee it. That's it.
You can't. So I quickly walked around, perched up, waited.
Okay, what was your order? Please tell me. Let's get to this.
It's a great order. I took some time to observe, to make sure and process like what was happening at this establishment. And I noticed one of the most important things they were serving. They were serving Grace Harbor milk. Which big shout out to Grace Harbor. I absolutely love Grace Harbor milk. Nice. It's competition level. Like actually Keziah, who we interviewed on the podcast, she used Grace Harbor for her USB-C competition without distilling it. Excellent. So excellent milk. So when I saw that, I was like, you're telling me there's a chance. Like it was, I knew that there was something gonna happen here that's gonna be tasty. But I was skeptical of the coffee. Like, it's fair. You can be skeptical, and it's okay. I watched a few shots being pulled, and I was like, okay, great. So I walk up, and it's my turn to order, and my order was a 16-ounce iced vanilla mocha.
Dude, what? Serge, are you okay? That's a lot of sugar, my guy.
Well, I wasn't sure about the chocolate quality. I was confident on the milk. I wasn't sure how dang good the espresso was.
Was it refreshing? At least it was iced.
I'll tell you what. It's very hot outside. I'm semi-tired. It was right after we roasted. And I just needed to crush out. It was Rain's, my daughter's first fair experience. So I knew I had to be present and awake. So basically I kind of needed the sugar to keep me excited, and I need the caffeine to continue the process of walking around. I drank that thing in less than a few minutes.
Was it good?
It was tasty.
Wow.
10 out of 10.
Folks,
dang good.
You've heard it here, folks. Sergi's iced vanilla latte with a couple pumps of
vanilla mocha. I almost went for white chocolate, but that I was sus. I was like, yeah. I'm unsure. Like, I was suspicious about that one.
Well, that's. I mean, yeah, that's. Yeah. To be honest, I don't remember the last time I went through a drive-thru. Actually, the most iconic memories for me of going through a drive-thru is going by Cruisin' Coffee, and only because my older sister and your younger sister would take me, and I would accompany her on these like pit stops at the Cruisin' Coffee.
Which location?
All of them.
Just cruising around.
And we would get a peanut butter mocha.
I actually kind of remember that.
And it listen, back then it slapped, and this was like me like 12 years ago maybe. So it slapped. It went off. But that's about it. I don't remember. I mean, I still go through like the drive-thru at Woods if I want something quick, a little breakfast Sammy. You know, it actually, I mean, it hits the spot. But I think drive-thrus unfortunately have. First off, they're extremely popular here in town, especially in Bellingham on the West Coast. And unfortunately, they've just received the bad rep. Especially, and mind you, for those listening, we're talking about folks who are coming from like very like progressive, modern, light roast, specialty, like high scoring coffees, pour overs, all this stuff. And it amongst this niche group of people, drive-thrus just haven't gotten much popularity, and simply because most of the time I think they're synonymous for lots of pumps of sugar, lots of mochas, lots of vanillas, lots of vanilla mochas, lots of and like the point is to say is like, how do we serve you as fast as possible and get you just moving on your way? So there's a lot of relational aspects that are missing and a lot of the craftsmanship that is missing. But at the same time, I don't know. Well, I guess what are your thoughts on that?
I just think, apart from Woods, right? That I think the Woods model isn't specifically like a drive-through stand. It's it's a cafe. It's a cafe that has a drive-through. Same thing, Starbucks, right? Cafe that has a drive-through.
Yeah.
I think the common theme in all of drive-thrus is their branding. Like, I want to just touch on this. We don't have to dig deep, but it's the names and the branding, right? It's like Cool Shots with a Z. Like, our cousin worked one of the big shots or
shots
to go.
Like a number 2. Yeah. So it's like it's always fun. Like Bigfoot, Java. Oh, Bigfoot.
I'm telling you,
Sasquatch coffee. Why would they call Java's coffee? I guess it makes sense.
Yeah, I'm telling you, every single time I drove past, not through Bigfoot Java, I always thought, man, it's an iconic location. It's like up on the hill, perched over this busy intersection, and
it's great.
I always thought, man, if that had Unreal branding, that would be an experience.
Yeah.
That one. There's another one that is like right by our house, like where we grew up. I mean, they all have kind of the same branding, and it feels like a little two decades too old. So that's one thing that completely sticks out to me. I'm like, okay, the first experience before you even get coffee, you're like, I think I'm gonna get a mocha here, right?
Yeah.
So I think a little uplift in the branding, a little redefined branding to the drive-through coffee scene would just make it less suspicious. I mean, there's one on Bakerview called Perfect Coffee, and it's a cat themed one. And it's like, when you go up that hill right past the Shell gas station on your right.
Oh, it's a dog one.
It's a dog or a burr or something like that. And I'm like, cool, but we can do better than that.
Yeah.
Which
no shade to that.
No.
If that's what people, I'll tell you, we know these names because they're memorable.
So it works, kind of, right?
Yeah. But I think, and so I think there are a few factors here that are, and I will say this is something that I think you and I have talked about, because I think there are some good things to a drive-through model. Mm-hmm. Because I mean, realistically speaking, I think we've all been there. Like, everybody probably listening to this podcast have thought, man, I'm rushing to work, or I'm rushing somewhere, or hey, especially me, like when I'm driving out of town and I just want to grab a coffee to go, or like, a small little treat and drink coffee on the way down to Seattle or whatever. I want something that's kind of just like streamlined, but I want also like a really solid cup of coffee. Mm-hmm. And I think actually it would be ridiculously profound to have like a drive-through that prioritizes a lot of maybe the sustainability aspects, the craftsmanship, the quality, but maybe that's a little bit more streamlined and in a form factor that allows you to stop by, get a beverage, and keep going.
Yeah.
I think, honestly, I literally think that that's missing. Like, we have a lot of cafes, but what about that model? Yeah. Which, I don't know.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to say that you can make good coffee and have your systems and efficiency dialed 100%. To where it can be quick enough. And maybe we're not talking about like pour overs and stuff like that. There's still ways to make those quote unquote quick, but it's still, if the coffee is dialed for a 4-minute brew, it's going to take 4 minutes at least, right? So same thing with espresso, but with the machinery and the equipment that we have right now, like espresso machines with scales built in, grinders with that grind by weight, like all of that, you can definitely make an efficient drive-through, serve people well, quickly, and make tasty coffee. So I don't think that's we have to settle for this idea that just because it's drive-through, it means it's fast, it means it's bad. So it can still be good. So I think that part of it really intrigues me, that yes, like, jokingly talking about the branding that needs to be redefined, but also efficiencies can be dialed to create a very good experience from the branding to the actual beverage that you receive.
And I think I want to touch upon like making bad coffee synonymous with quick and vice versa, I think is a little problematic.
100%.
Because, and also very traditional and old.
Yep.
Because I think, which we've talked about this on the podcast multiple times, but I think the innovations with technology, the innovations with what we're able to do with the same amount of time, the same amount of maybe hands and arms, but to increase your output is now very real. Like, a while ago, there was no such thing as, a steady pour over machine.
Right.
Not to say that they're, great. I have my own beef with them, but now that's actually possible. Now you could be brewing a pour over and pulling a shot inside of a drive-through. Like, of course, that I'm talking about more of the tech, not that you should do that. Yeah. But whether that's, built-in scales, whether that's great grinders, like technology is actually, the point of technology is to make it efficient and cut down your time, but increase also your output. And I think now with what we have available, although you may not be serving pour overs that are this drive-through, but what you can do is have batch brew that's really, really dialed. Like Heart Coffee in Portland, they don't serve pour overs, at least not that from what I remember, or at least the locations that I've been to. Yeah. But they say, hey, we believe that our batch is just dialed that well that you can have a really tasty black cup of coffee if that's what you're looking for. why not have that in a drive-thru, you know?
Yeah. There's also Brass Tacks in Jacksonville, Florida on South Side. I remember when they opened, everybody was kind of like, wait, what? They have a drive-thru? Yeah. And they serve specialty coffee. So everyone was unsure, but they did serve single cup brewed coffees, which was not a hand pour over. It was like one of the Curtis brewers that served single cup coffees, and they were serving them out the drive-thru. So again, that's another example of people not taking the common traditional view of certain elements and then sticking to those, but redefining certain elements and then creating ways to make good coffee possible through a drive-thru.
I think a lot of actually you mentioning like redefining some of the traditional ways of thinking. I think actually even in like our specialty niche group of the industry, we also, like 10 years ago, the stuff that we would say now we've redefined it and are like, wait, why did we even ever think about that? Like, why did we, whether that's actually with coffee processing, with roasting, with brewing, with cafe management, like everything is like, we just realized like, wait a second, maybe we're just like clinging onto something that's not worth clinging onto. And so I guess I'm just saying like that's I think redefining what could be possible in a drive-thru model without what we've always expected it to be.
Yeah. And at the same time, then redefining what good hospitality could possibly mean through a drive-thru.
Right.
Because we had an episode with Kenna Warren back in the day, and she just boasted on a drive-thru stand that provided amazing hospitality going through a drive-thru. And actually, that drive-thru stand has a roastery inside of a drive-thru. Like, insane, right? So those are the elements that are actually possible. I think sometimes we get constrained to thinking like a certain way when it comes to the cafe experience, or good quality coffee or good hospitality has to look like this, where I think there's also a lot of room to challenge that idea by actually doing a drive-thru. So like I said, like when I drive into Sunset Square and I see Bigfoot Java there, and I don't know if someone's already bought it, it always piques my curiosity.
Me too.
Because it makes me think like, what could you achieve with a kind of the old shell and recreate the model, but use that shell and make something like very, very cool and very unique, I'm
just going to hint at something, but I also think drive-thrus could be a really powerful way to push sustainability in a way that I actually think is not possible around the niche specialty crowd. Which we've talked a lot about that before, but I'm just going to leave that there because I think maybe it's worth, we can be talking about it at a future episode, But I'll ask you this. If you had, your ideal drive-thru, what's one or two top things that you would implement to make this like a freaking incredible bonkers drive-thru?
So first thing, if I had the opportunity to buy Dane Good Coffee, and if I could merge that with
out of all the things, you just steal the name.
I'm not buying like, I mean, who knows? Like, people sometimes want to sell. That's fine. I'm not, but I can envision it. Like, I want this like neon sign on the top of the roof, A-frame roof. I want an A-frame drive-thru. I don't know why. There's something about an A-frame roof drive-thru. On the very top, as if like, in movies you see when the wind blows, the thing spins, and it's like the north-south. It's like a windmill thing. Right in the middle, in a similar shape, is a neon sign of a Great Dane just standing there with arms folded. I can see it. Like that would be one thing. Everything else is modern, and the neon sign is like a hot pink with a little bit of our mirror blue. Like the bow tie on the Great Dane is gonna be mirror blue.
Speaking of
because the sign is gonna reflect.
Speaking of the neon sign, I think it'd be sick to have like a giant neon sign, like you see in old classic movies where the neon sign is turning all the time.
Yeah, dude.
I think that's
Kreme.
that's an unmatched look. Like it's got to make a return.
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Anyways, second thing.
Yeah, I mean design like things like I can see it like. Man, you've got me loaded on this question because I'm getting ideas. The other,
would you serve a geisha on espresso?
That could potentially be conflicting, but maybe, maybe I would serve it on like EK shots of the geisha, and like on the side, yeah. Like the possibilities are endless because you can literally have a drive-through with like 2 tables with an umbrella. Again, Great Dane umbrellas. That would go off like woof. That would off. So imagine you're driving through, and the people that know that there's a geisha on the EK, they can just walk up to the umbrella stand, perch, sit down, get a shot of geisha. But if you're just driving through, cruising, dude, that espresso blend is just rocking. The vanilla, the mocha,
dude,
Grace Harbor milk.
How are you gonna get that? How are you going to get that in with Washington weather? It's always raining. You go to geisha on a summer day or what?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, geisha.
So what would you change?
I think once again I'm joking about the Great Dane neon sign. I think some of the branding that could be made a little more appealing for like me and my demographic. I think that's the external start, right? Internally, I think, I never worked at a drive-thru, so it's hard for me to know what goes on. A lot of the times, what I assume goes on is that there's just like kind of chaos. And again, I've never worked in one, so please, no one, judge me too harshly here. But we're going to take off those headsets, and we might... and we might just use AirPods, or I don't know. I think we can innovate on the headset thing. And there's a lot of possibilities that we could actually provide better hospitality without the headset. That's one thing. What do you think?
That's all you would change.
No, those are a couple of things.
What kind of beef do you have with the headsets? I'm confused. That was the last thing I was expecting. What's wrong with the headsets?
I mean,
I kind of like them. It's like,
you know what it reminds me of? You've seen Grind, right? Do you remember that little restaurant that they go in before they go on their journey, the skateboarding journey? Do you remember the guy with the headset?
I like it. It's a vibe. I don't know.
He was sweaty, dude. It was just not sanitary. I don't know if you want a barista with that kind of a headset pulling a geisha shot on the EK.
I thought it's fire. I thought if a barista can serve me with one of those headsets with a big round
the Britney Spears mic.
Unmatched. Listen, I'd show up. I'd show up.
I got an idea here. What if there was a drive-through like Sonic?
Oh, that's fair.
That's kind of cool. There's maybe even like boomers, like maybe some roller skates.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah. Personally, I would say like providing the coffees that I prefer drinking, but putting them in a coffee stand for me to enjoy on the go somewhere. Have like a decent cup of coffee. That's all I want.
So you're saying the only problem with drive-through coffee is the roasting companies they're serving?
I think so. I mean, maybe I think also we could do some work on the pastries a little bit, maybe change up the food options. They're just a little too, I don't know. I'm still looking for a drive-through that would be mind-blowing, so to speak. Yeah. So I think there's just like a little tweak in the product, maybe adjusting, and then I'll even take some bad branding.
I don't know.
But yes, we need some nice appeal. I need the neon sign turning, spinning on top. So
I think there's a lot of potential here.
Yeah. Well, is Mary gonna cop a little drive-through stand?
Dude, this podcast was so much fun, and I think if the project can be this fun, I don't say no to fun.
Alrighty, folks, down in the comments, let us know. Do you like drive-thrus? When was the last time you had a drive-thru experience? Is it like your daily, or is it like once a year? Do you treat yourself to a vanilla mocha?
Ooh,
Or I honestly would be very curious to hear what people think about like drive-thrus. I feel like nobody talks about it enough. I actually think it's legitimately so underrated, just straight up. So
Word.
thank you so much for listening to another episode of the Coffee Roaster Warm-Up Sessions podcast. Friends, that is another episode in the books about drive-thrus. Thank you once again, and as we always say, reflect what's good.